Attending meetings shall observe rules of propriety, decorum, and good conduct. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or who becomes boisterous while addressing the board may be removed by the sergeant at arms if directed by the chair. Such person may be barred from further audience before the board. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stomping of feet, whistling, yells, or similar demonstrations shall not be permitted by the chair, who may direct offenders from the hearing room. With that, we have 5 people who've filled out a card. Corey Stevens, Emily Bressler, and Dave Smith. And if I've called you, if you want to come up, please do.
Can I get the camera? You put a document there. Yeah. First off, I'd be remiss if not to say we have been unburdened by what might have been. Now on to this unresolved issue with the sheriff. I pose to you this question. If you or I were to go to the airport with a loaded weapon in our suitcase, check our baggage, and not declare said weapon, what do you suppose would happen to you or me? Here is what I can imagine would happen. We would be detained. We would most certainly miss our flight because we would then go through the most extensive interrogation process and most likely intrusive body search ever. Not to mention confiscation of said weapon, and surely there would be a report of said incident. Not if you are Chris Nanos and you are above the law, which is exactly what happened last week at Tucson International Airport. As for Lieutenant Lappin, she was following jail policy, and had she denied access to the media, that would have been a dereliction of duty. As for Sergeant Aaron Cross, he was simply exercising his constitutional rights. The way in which the sheriff chose to place his campaign opponent on administrative leave is quite suspicious. How many cases of intimidation does the Pima County Sheriff's Department investigate based on appearance? How many calls do they get of a biker standing on the corner committing no crime because the person looks scary, or a homeless person perhaps holding up a sign? By the way, I think he should be investigated, the sheriff, for scaring thousands of children and impersonating a truly untarnished law enforcement officer like Woody. Because unlike Woody, Nanos has already been investigated by the FBI, the AG's office, and other outside agencies for his incompetencies and mismanagement of the Pima County Sheriff's Department. I would strongly urge you all to censor Sheriff Nanos, because what he has done to his political opponent is, in fact, election interference. And he has impersonated an officer himself, judging by this photo. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Bressler.
All right. Good morning, supervisors, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Emily Bressler, and I'm here today because it's my 31st birthday, and I have the day off of work. Usually I wouldn't be able to attend, as most of these meetings fall during regular business hours. To make these sessions more inclusive and allow a greater number of working residents to participate, I'd like to suggest that you consider holding some board meetings in the evening. Adjusting this timing to accommodate various work schedules will lead to more community engagement and let residents share their perspectives directly to you. I also want to discuss Prop 312. While I don't agree with it, I recognize that it has passed. However, rather than responding to these challenges by enforcing measures that might criminalize homelessness, I'd like to propose an alternative solution that helps address this issue constructively. Currently, Pima County has limited regulations governing short-term rentals, such as Airbnb. These properties have been growing rapidly in our area, and without regulation, they can contribute to housing availability issues and other challenges within our community. Other cities in Arizona, like Flagstaff and Paradise Valley, have introduced licensing requirements to short-term rental properties, finding ways to operate within framework of SB 1350, which limits local government control over short-term rentals. Under SB 1350, municipalities can't outright ban short-term rentals or overly restrict their operations, but they can introduce specific requirements. For example, cities have been able to implement licensing and registration requirements, designate emergency contracts, enforce compliance with noise and nuisance laws, and require operators to follow public safety standards. Pima County could look at these models following the guidances of cities that successfully navigated SB 1350 to establish a regulatory framework that's both effective and legally sound. If we introduce such licensing requirements here, the additional revenue collected could be redirected to support programs within the Department of Justice Services, community workforce development, and other critical areas that assist our unhoused population. By proactively addressing the increase in short-term rentals, Pima County could support housing initiatives and provincially prevent lawsuits from property owners concerned about their property value. Taking steps like this would allow us to respond to the housing challenges within our community without resorting to measures that would unfairly penalize those struggling. We could build a more balanced approach that considered neighborhood concerns and funds meaningful support to people who need it. I encourage you to look into regulatory options for short-term rentals as a sustainable way to address this issue. Thank you again for your time and considering this path toward an inclusive, constructive solutions that benefits our entire community.
Thank you. Dave Smith, followed by Lane Myers and Keith Van Heineken.
Check right there, the guy in the red hat. He's about to get.
Well, here it is a week later. We're still counting. This is one of the things I'm sure that we have bipartisan concern about, because I'm sure you're getting notified from people all around the country wondering what's going on in Arizona. I understand they're still doing their hand count confirmation that we finished on Saturday up in Phoenix 3 days later, and I think they're still doing it today. It's obviously, we need to come up with a better system. Hopefully now we can have a bipartisan effort to straighten this out, because no republic should sit with this ambiguity this long. It doesn't look as if certain balance of powers are going to change. So it's going to be incumbent for the next 4 years for everyone to sit down and talk about solutions and solve the real problems. We have an interesting problem in our jail, in our sheriff's department. These are things that we need to look at seriously, because we have all the deaths, we have the corruption, we have all these issues that we need to investigate. We have to find out what's going on. So you're going to be challenged with that, those of you that stay and those of you that will be replaced. And the other thing is that this county is growing, and we want it to be attractive for businesses. We want to have that kind of thing that so many people get up here and talk about. Our taxation keeps growing and growing. Our housing values keep being increased to increase our taxation. And yet there's no solutions being offered. There's no problems being solved. And I've talked about this before, but this is the thing we need is, as a group, you're going to have to solve real problems, and there's no way out of it because your accountability is very serious, and we're not going away. Now, the thing is again, it's sad to see all the ambiguity and stress created by this amount of uncertainty in our election, because all it does is increase suspicion, fear, and anger. And these are the very things that we don't want to have in our society. So I challenge you over the next year and a half or two, because we're going to have another election in 2 years with the same entire resolve. Everybody's going to come at the Republicans, the Democrats, the Libertarians, and the Greens are all going to come at each other full speed. And this ambiguity, this length of time where we're wondering what is the actual count, what is the reality of it, and that only creates suspicion and fear and anger and distrust. So I know that you are limited by law, what things you can do statutorily, but again, these are the things that you need to look at. The jail, the funding, the sheriff's department, the recorder's office. We were not allowed to have observers in the early voting. This is the only county in Arizona that allowed no observers in the early counting voting centers. And that's something that just enhances our anger, our suspicion, and our doubts. So that's the challenge. It's in your court. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Lane Myers, followed by Keith Van Heinigen and Anastasia Satakis. And those are the last cards I have. So if anyone would like to bring forward another card, please do.
This is Lane Myers, everybody.
My name is Lane Myers, and I live at 6263 Copper, where I reside in Supervisor Gavala's head, rent-free. I'm here to speak about my ongoing prosecution for getting arrested for booing at the Tucson City Council meeting by the Pima County Attorney's Office. There was a similar case in Surprise that just adjudicated where a woman, Rebecca Massey, went to the meeting and was speaking about the supervisor or the attorney's salary being overpaid. She got removed. She was arrested on August 20th, and on October 23rd, her case was already dismissed by the justices. I was arrested June 4th, and as of today, I'm still waiting on trial in December for getting arrested for booing while others were clapping. Now, what I did here when I first came in could be considered more of a disruption than booing while others are clapping, and I didn't even mean to disrupt this. I didn't know this was all going on when I walked in. So I want to read something. This is the ruling from the judge, especially for you, Sam Brown, because you and Rebecca O'Brien are going to lose big time in court. I know you can't even look at me because you're a coward. In this case, defendant was charged with trespass in violation of ARS 13502 after a government official ordered her removal from a public city council meeting because she was allegedly violating a government policy. There are a few problems. That policy regulated not just speech, but political speech. It regulated not just the time, place, and manner of the speech, it regulated the content of the speech. In any constitutional law analysis, the government's action would trigger strict scrutiny. No branch of any federal, state, or local government in this country should ever attempt to control the content of political speech. Rankin versus McPherson. Government employees should not have been, in this case, the government did so in a manner that was objectively outrageous. Whatever differences may exist about interpretation of the First Amendment, there is practically universal agreement that a major purpose of that amendment was to protect the free discussion of governmental affairs. The defendant should have not faced criminal prosecution, not even once, for expressing her political views. The court agrees she should never face criminal prosecution for expressing her political views on that date at that time again, nor should she be forced to encounter any additional attorney fees should this matter be filed. It is ordered that this case is dismissed with prejudice in the interest of justice. So like I said, I got arrested at the Tucson City Council meeting, right? So that's not even Pima County's problem. But here's the problem. They sent it to them. And now it is your problem, and the lawsuit's been filed, and your name's on it, and your name's on it, because that's how it goes. They should have dismissed it in the interest of justice. So it wasn't Pima County's problem until your buddy Romero sent it over there and said, hey, get this guy. And so now I'm going to get you instead of you getting me. Have a nice one.
Keith Van Heinigen.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Keith Van Heinigen. I've been a resident for a quarter century and a pain in the butt for 20 odd years. I'm Matt. How you doing, Matt? Nice to see you, Matt. Oh, Matt's not there. Aren't any of you old enough to remember the Dupnik Nanos years that made us the illegal drug and illegal alien invasion corridor we are today? All of us were around for that. Sure, Rex was. Sylvia, were you here at that time? Steve, yes. Century Nanos, all you want, but Angelita's and Rex's children from TUSD reelected his butt. Will you build a new jail before this one crumbles, burns, develops mold or leprosy? Pima County bureaucrats are worse than the Marxist Democrats they serve. Give yourself another BS award. Yay, waste and fraud, yay. To thunderous applause and photo ops. Our local government is really the opposite of our friend. Steve Christie, thank you for standing in the way of an all-out tax assault. My wife says you're the only reason we haven't moved. That's pretty cool. When the last Republican is voted out, I'll leave. I fought this. I'm damn near dead. Thank you, Medical Society. This is 2 months out on hip replacement. It's fantastic. And that's a minor problem. The locked doors at the entry. That's a nice paranoid touch. It really is. Says a lot about every bureaucrat in this room. You are paranoid beyond belief. And that's the problem, because look how you treat us. The first board meeting after Donald is sworn in next year. Here with bells on, and it'll be a laugh. Have a nice day. Bye, Matt. Where you at, Matt?
Anastasia Takis, followed by Mary. Thank you, Dulciami.
Our republic is now once restored with thundering applause. But for the fact that this county recorder's office cannot, again, get their act together is completely appalling and disgusting. What a lot of Democrats want to say is democracy, we call a constitutional republic. Democracy may be about the voting, but it is a constitutional republic still. There are rules and laws that need to be followed, and the rules and laws are not being followed. I have tracked the number counts for the last week since voting ended. And I also want to say that there has been active disenfranchisement of voters at the recorder's office from people who went to vote there. Quite a few of my friends had gone to the recorder's office on Country Club to go vote. And they were attempted to be turned away on Friday, the last day of early voting, from two thugs in vests at the recorder's office telling them to leave and go away, and they should come back on Saturday. Let me see. They weren't going to be open on Saturday because, oh, it's going to be 45 minutes long to wait, and you guys need to go home. Thereby disenfranchising individuals from voting in person on the last day of voting. So what? They went to go vote on Friday. What does it matter to the recorder's office what they did? They went there to go cast their vote legally. And yet they were being attempted to be turned away. As of right now, since last week, we were stuck at 3,300 early ballots. We are now at, 2,500 ballots left to count. Really? We have 7,100 provisionals to go. A total of clean ballots of 53,000 ballots to count. Since last week, you guys, Florida is shaming all of you. Florida has shamed this county recorder who has failed her job and not done what she was supposed to do. One of the last things I'm going to say is the fact that Matt Hines has no business trying to call for a censure on somebody when he should have been censured during COVID for calling the entirety of Pima County who didn't get the jab murderers, children, typhoid Marys. Mind you, this was done on an open public forum that everybody in the world saw. And he was calling for licenses to be revoked of obstetricians if they didn't jab up their patients, their pregnant patients. Yeah, don't throw the stone, Matt. You should look at yourself, and all of you failed in censuring him.
Mary Dulciami, and Mary is our last speaker. If anyone else wishes to speak, please put in a card.
Hi, Mary Dulciami. I apologize. I wasn't planning on speaking. I don't have anything prepared, and I'm getting over allergy stuff, so I apologize. I'm a retired deputy from the Pima County Sheriff's Department, retired 3 years ago, have been through many election cycles, and I have never seen this except the last time Nanos ran, where he attacks his opponents that he's running against. For taxpayers, I just want to make you aware that he's over budget. I know you guys know that. aware of the fact how much it costs for a lieutenant and a sergeant to be paid to stay home, especially when there was no allegation their job performance was an issue. Sorry, apologize. And in 2016, when Nanos ran, I was working off duty in the city at a private job for the labor picnic, which is a Democratic function. If you're aware, some of you may have gone and spoken there. They have a picnic every year. They hire 5 deputies to work in uniform at that function. While I was working there as an acting supervisor, 2 deputies showed up in uniform at that function. I was confused. Why are these guys here? We're either not on my squad. So I asked them, what are you doing here? Oh, we're sent here to hand out some bling, fly the flag for the sheriff. I don't know who sent them. I reported it. It's in the city. I said, what, community resources sent you? No, we got pulled out of patrol in San Javier District on the taxpayer's dime at the behest of somebody from the sheriff's department. During work, totally out of line. That's clearly a violation. I have to be straight up. I was out as soon as I heard about what happened to Aaron Cross. I went out and put on my old green pants and my old tan boots, and I held a sign up. I look like a deputy, probably not anymore, but I wasn't wearing any insignia that says I'm a cop. And everybody already knew he was a cop because he was on TV a week before telling everybody that I'm a sergeant with the Pima County Sheriff's Department and we don't want nanos. So there shouldn't be no surprise, and it's not against the law. He has a constitutional right to hold a sign that says we don't want nanos. And she has a right to let him do that. She can't, Heather Lappin should not have been punished for allowing him his constitutional rights. So neither one of them should be getting paid by the taxpayers of Pima County to stay home. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if we have no other people who wish to speak at the call to the audience, I'll go ahead and close the call and ask my colleagues if they wish to respond to a criticism, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. Okay, thank you. All right. Executive session is at 10:15. And so we'll skip executive session and go to the Board of Supervisors sitting as other boards. Item 11, the flood control district. Can we take, item 11. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Item passes unanimously. Item number 12 is a contract for a Santa Cruz River pedestrian bridge. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Christie.
could county administration or administrators give us the benefit of some sort of an explanation of how the funding source for this works? It's regional flood control and through the regional control district tax levy. But it's kind of confusing, a little bit convoluted. How does this funding work?
Administrator Lesher.
Thank you. Deputy County Administrator DeBonis.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Christie, as you noted, it comes from the Regional Flood Control District tax levy. So those dollars go into operational expenses of the Regional Flood Control District, as well as the capital improvement project that they deliver. So this bridge is part of the current annual capital improvement project list that was approved by the board as part of the budget. It provides access across the banks of the Santa Cruz. There's currently a significantly large gap that prevents users of the loop from getting from one side to the other along the Santa Cruz, and this is to help fill in that gap.
Madam Chair, Mr. DeBonis, just to be clear, because this has a transportation element in it, can any of this money, this being dedicated for this project, can any of this money be directed to repairing any county roads, maintenance or repair?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Christie, no, they cannot.
And that is because?
So the flood control district levy is intended for improvements to flood control assets. So the Santa Cruz River is one of the major waterways. The basis of the loop itself is for access for maintenance for the flood control district to the Santa Cruz River and the other major water courses, the Rito, the Pantano. So if you remember back in the 1983 floods, significant property loss occurred. There was damage to residences and businesses. There was loss of life. The flood control district needs to access those major water courses during flood events. And so that is the primary purpose of the path that follows the 140-mile stretch of the path that follows the major water courses. So this is a flood control specific improvement, not a transportation improvement. Although there are secondary uses, which are the recreational amenities for pedestrians and cyclists and equestrians, it's not eligible for use for transportation road repair.
So just to be clear, Madam Chair, Mr. DeBonis, that there is no possibility that any of this money can be diverted towards the repair and maintenance of county roads.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Christie, no, it cannot.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Item passes unanimously. Item number 13 is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Memorandum of Understanding. This is, I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion?
Chair Grijalva.
Supervisor Scott.
Question for either you or the clerk. What's the difference between item number 13 and item number 22?
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Scott, they're the same items, but you are sitting as different boards to address. One is flood control, one is the Board of Supervisors.
Got it. Thank you. And then question, Ms. Lesher, that either you can field or ask Mr. DeBonis to answer. There is in section 5 of the Memorandum of Understanding a reference to the implementation plan that's going to be developed between the county and the Fish and Wildlife Service. I'm sure that plan is not going to come back to the board for review or approval, but would still like to see it just to see which entity is going to be doing which projects, and also would like to see the annual report that is mentioned, I think, in the same section. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, you have a motion and a second. I would like to say that specifically for this MOU with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, it will enable the county and our regional flood control district to work with the federal agency toward the creation of a Santa Cruz River Urban National Wildlife Refuge. This effort will further protect the river and its invaluable riparian habitat for wildlife to thrive and for ourselves and future generations to enjoy. The Santa Cruz River is dry over much of its course, but it is the reason humans inhabit Tucson and Pima County. It's provided sustenance for our indigenous forebears for many centuries. It now flows in 3 perennial stretches, and there is a potential for more, and a potential for this effort will greatly enhance. And so I have supported this effort from my earliest knowledge of it, and I hope that you'll join me in approving this vital step in protecting and enhancing the Santa Cruz with the official federal authority in the Santa Cruz River Urban Wildlife Refuge. So with that, I'll have a motion, a second. Any other discussion?
Before you vote, just for the record, Supervisor Hines has joined the meeting.
Thank you. Motion a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Item passes unanimously. And I guess we could have done 22 at the same time, but we'll just skip that. We won't chit chat on that one. We have item 14 is the removal and replacement of the Pima County Flood Control District covenant, and that is actually 14 and 28. So I'll go ahead and move both of those items.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. Item passes unanimously. And it's the Library District Board, item number 15. This is an award to provide book leasing services. I'll go ahead and move the item for sake of discussion.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. I do have a question about the lease versus buy. I understand that what they're trying to do is address the number of patrons that go into the library wanting like a very popular book, not having to buy as many, and then leasing them and sending them back. But we do have a lot of school libraries in town. We have the Friends of the Library. And so this is a $500,000 and it with 4 one-year renewal options. So I do have some questions about that and why we're doing this versus just buying the books in paperback. And Mr. Lesher, Dr. Garcia.
Chair Grijalva, the way that we meet the demand of our patrons at the library is increasingly complex. We have 3 main ways of doing that through our digital offerings, which are immensely popular, now constitute about more than half of the checkouts that we do, the physical collection. And then we are continuously faced with the issue of particular items that are very, very popular. And that popularity is difficult to predict. And the market, of course, makes those offerings more expensive when that popularity goes up. So the solution that we have looked for is a solution that many libraries across the country do, which is to lease books for a period of time. Understand that the physical books that we own only last for about 20 checkouts or so before they have to be retired. And so this is a way of being able to meet a patron need and still be able to do so kind of within the budget.
So this means that once they're used and have like 20 checkouts, then if it's a leased book, they'll refresh it and send us a new one and not charge any additional amount?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Item passes unanimously. Item number 16 is authorizing Finance and Risk Management Director to execute library district donation documents, resolution number 2024-LD2. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Christie.
I'm curious, why now all of a sudden is this issue coming before the board? Did we have nothing in place before? And if there was nothing in place before, why was there nothing in place before? And what seems to be the driving force at this point in time to address this?
Chair,
Mr. Leisure.
and Supervisor Christie, that in going through and looking at all of our administrative directives and documents, we've recognized that we believe that there may be some gaps. You're going to be looking at it later when we look at a naming policy. And there has never been an opportunity for any kind of specific document that would authorize the finance director to receive money for the trust, for the library district from donations. We have it for many other opportunities if funds are coming in, and for the director of finance to actually receive those documents and those dollars. This is just formalizing what may have been practiced, but has not been a specific procedure of the board.
Madam Chair and Ms. Lesher, has there been a problem?
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, the specific problem, we have not had a problem bringing in those dollars. We have what I believe to be occasionally lack of a variety of overriding documents throughout in many ways. We haven't had a problem yet that's causing this. We hope that there will never be a problem if we get this in place now.
And one last question, Madam Chair, how was this brought forward? I mean, was it through the library advisory board or from county administration that
Sure.
all of a sudden we've got to deal into this?
It is through the finance department. It is when dollars are looking to come into the department. It was when we began to look at what are the authorizing documents that have been approved by the board that would allow the finance director to receive those funds. And we did not have a formal policy, which is why we're bringing it to the board.
Thank you, Ms. Lesher. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Item passes unanimously. Sitting as the Board of Supervisors, item 17 is approval of the consent calendar. I'll move the item.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Item passes unanimously. Item number 18 is the amended Board of Supervisors meeting schedule. This is to add a special meeting on November 21st. This meeting will be held at 9 a.m. virtually. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Christie.
with all of the issues that have been outlined and called to the public, as well as in the media and the press and throughout the community, I'm wondering, is the canvas going to be ready in time? Is this something that we're going to be up against the deadline without all of the votes tallied and the proper completion of the ballots taken care of with tabulation.
Sure.
It seems like we should at least address that and not put this in stone and canvass something that's not being ready to canvass.
Administrator Lesher.
Chair Goodell and Supervisor Christie, the reason we've asked for that day is that is the last day that we are allowed legally by in state statute to approve the canvass. The elections directors indicated we believe the last of the current ballots with her will be counted on Wednesday. There are still some provisionals to be verified and to be processed for final counting, but we legally have to have it done by that day. That is the last opportunity to approve the canvass.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm again, at the rate it's been going with the outstanding votes at this point in time, after all this length of time still tabulating them, it doesn't leave one with a great sense of security that the final tabulation will be completed. What's plan B if it's not?
It will be completed.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Item passes unanimously. So now, excuse me. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and I'll take a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
I'll just to cover, we have item number 10 on the regular agenda, and then addendum 1 and addendum 2 each have an executive session item there. And so I'll go ahead and move all of those. Supervisor Scott seconds. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Item passes unanimously. So we'll be in recess out here while we do executive session, and we'll come back as soon as we're done. Thank you. That was just a discussion item. No action. And then addendum item number 1, executive session. I'll go ahead and make a motion to move forward as discussed in executive session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. Oh, well, can't discuss. Sorry. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Item passes unanimously. And then addendum 2, executive session. I'll go ahead and move forward that we move forward as discussed in executive session.
Second.
And have a second from Supervisor Scott. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Item passes unanimously. So if it's okay with you all, we have a couple people here for the hearings. At the end, 63. Hang on a second. Sorry. 63 and 64. 63 is a hearing rezoning ordinance number 2024-15. And this one. Oh, and we do have Kevin Wolford. That you want to speak on the item? Okay. Yes.
First, I want to congratulate the supervisors on your recent victories last week. Rex Scott, Matt Hines, Steve Christie, and Adelita Grijalva.
Thank you.
He helped me learn how to pronounce it.
Thank you. Very kind.
Okay, it's been 4 months since the July 2nd Board of Supervisors meeting when this panel voted to approve my rezoning request. And that's a long time ago, so I just wanted to quickly summarize my situation to refresh any memories. This is a 6-acre rectangle, and I live in a home on the northeast corner. It is currently zoned SR1. My current intention is to keep 1 acre for my wife and me and sell the remaining portion of the property. In order to divide the property into smaller lots than 3.1 acres, it has to be rezoned. My request is to change my zoning to CR1 so that it matches the zoning of all the properties which surround me. My neighbor on the northeast corner, my neighbor on the southeast corner, and my neighbor to the south have all expressed a desire to buy portions of my property. And the good news is that they don't intend to build on it. They simply want to add land to their lots. And my neighbor to the west side of Bonanza already has an acre of my property on a contingent contract. So and the good news is his intention also is not to build on it, but just to keep it natural. Of course, rezoning has to happen first. So thank you all for allowing me to speak, and thank you for your consideration on this item.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? So I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and move to approve ordinance number 2024-15.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Item passes unanimously. And item number 64 is a hearing rezoning. Is anyone here to speak in opposition of this item? Okay, then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and move to approve resolution number 2024-61.
Second.
And a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye.